Chief Executive of Harlow Council. When did you come to Harlow and why did you come to Harlow?
I started in Harlow November the 10th, 2003. The day before, the November 11th, of course, which gave me a really good introduction to Harlow. I came to Harlow because I knew that it was a challenging environment. And I thought, having done my background research, that it was going to be a challenge, but one of an important place and council. And I wanted something that would actually challenge me. And I came initially for 3 years thinking, well, I will make an impact and then I'll go on to bigger and better things, perhaps. But Harlow got under my skin, both in terms of the council and the place. And it's kept me enthused and enthralled during the almost 14 years that I've been here.
Do you recall your interview?
I do.
Any tricky questions?
They're always tricky questions. It was really interesting because it got down to 2 of us in the end. And then it was an interview by the whole council, which is unusual. And I remember it was at the Latin Bush Centre. And I had to walk from the back of the hall, so it was in the main hall, to the front, go onto the stage that had been erected, give a presentation, and then answer questions from councillors. So it was a very thorough process, and it tested many aspects of my experience and also my approach. And I guess it also sought to put the candidates under a little pressure to see how they'd react in a very sort of almost public forum.
So what in those then you came to work here in Harlow. What were the immediate challenges to you?
It was really getting the council to recognise where it was. And shortly, I think it was the February after I joined in the November, we had a national inspection, a CPA inspection as it was called. And we were identified as one of, I think it was the 5 worst councils in the country. And it was, very stark in terms of its conclusions. And right at the heart of the challenges that we had was relationships between councillors and also between councillors and particularly senior staff. And that really did create a major challenge, because it was not only about getting the strategy right, it was about the culture of the organisation and getting an external focus rather than internal adversarial focus. And that was something that really did test me to the full.
And over we're sweeping over quite a long period of time, but and here we are, in your final days at Harlow Council.
Thanks for putting that in.
Yeah, I thought yes. Yes. It's always good to be positive. What would you say? I know you're a modest man, but what would you say? You're looking back. That was a great achievement. That was a good achievement by yourself and the council.
Well, I think one of the features of my time in Harlow has been the team. We developed a strapline working together for Harlow. And for me, that has become the living embodiment of what the council is all about and how it addresses things. And there have been some noticeable, if you like, tangible things, like, leisure zone, for example. I was given the challenge, in fact, just before I started, because I started coming for a day or so a week. And we had some money from the government available, and unless we actually made progress, we were going to lose the money. So that was an immediate priority. And I worked with various stakeholders and partners to actually get leisure zone delivered, and that's something that is a tangible symbol of things that have been achieved. But for me, I think it's not necessarily about the sort of awards and recognitions we've got. It's how we work together. So if there is an issue, we will pull together. Now, when I came to Harlow, we had 27 senior managers. We now have 5 point something. And throughout that period, what we've been able to do is to create a senior team that works really well together as part of a team. And I think, I've walked around the offices today, and I'm always enthused and delighted by how people are open and are prepared to work together. And that for me is, if there is a single achievement, that for me is the thing that I'm most proud of. That we're proud of Harlow, we're proud of the council, we work together and we achieve things together.
What about something like Public Health England? What was your role in them coming here?
Well, I came up with the original idea because
That's quite a big idea.
Well, yes. I heard that GSK was pulling out of neuroscience research, and that they were going to withdraw from their buildings in Harlow. I also found out that Public Health England were thinking about relocating and consolidating their things. So I put the two organisations together and acted as, if you like, a facilitator during the process. And then Robert Halfon got involved, and he was brilliant and worked consistently hard with me and others to make it happen in practice. And, that, when it comes about in 2021 to 2024, will have a huge impact on Harlow. And that's something, again, which, I like to think that I played a role in. And it's like, setting up Keir Harlow. People looked at what the council was doing as a liability in some ways. And by recognising that actually we've got an asset, there's something that we can really develop here. And having a partnership with the private sector enabled that to actually change. And now we bought it at arm's length in-house. And the people of Harlow have not only had the benefit of improved performance and increased value for money, but will now be able to retain the surplus that's going to be generated from that. And I'm really proud that we've been able to go on that journey together.
I mean, you're a civil servant, a public servant. How do you and the councillors are the people who are democratically elected? How's your relationship been with councillors? Because it is to the man in the street that may not quite aware what the difference is, isn't it? Has it had to be quite a diplomatic role with councillors to meet both ways or see things?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, when I was appointed, it was Conservative Lib Dem Alliance coalition. 2 weeks after I started, they fell out, so it was a minority Lib Dem administration until the election. And then I think after the election, it was 4 months without an administration. Then it was a Labour Lib Dem administration, and then we had a Conservative administration, and now we've got a Labour administration. And I was the only chief executive in the country, I think still, to ever have joint leaders. Now, part of my role is to work with all of the parties so that they have confidence that the chief executive and the senior managers are working for the whole council, not any political group. And I've had to have some very frank and diplomatic conversations in terms of the challenges that we have faced and what we need to do to move from where we were to where we are now. And during that period of time, the amount of money that we've had to find in terms of savings and efficiency gains has been extraordinary. And so, the politicians have had a really difficult job in terms of identifying the priorities and deciding what to invest in and what not to invest in. And I've had to work with them to identify the implications of that. And then I and the team have had to really work to deliver that and to protect frontline services as much as we can to ensure that we use every penny that we do have as efficiently as possible. That's why we slimmed down the senior management team from 27 to 5 points.
What do you think of the challenges? So we have drifted slightly into an interview about local government, but what do you think is for the chief executives of now
Yes.
and the next 10 years, 15 years, 20, what do you think are the challenges that are different from the challenges that you've faced in your career?
It's always difficult to look into the future, of course. I think there are going to be some similarities because it's about relationships. Making things happen with people and through people, irrespective of politics or anything else. I think one of the bigger challenges that the future chief executives will hold, and that is engagement with the community. I think one of the key things, we use social media all the time, but are we achieving a real sense of engagement with the community and using what they feel and what they're saying and what they want to say to actually inform what we do and how we do it? And one of the challenges, for example, that we have is channel shift for paying the council money. Now, we have reduced the number of cash officers, and we try to make it and incentivise people to pay us through the internet and everything else. Some people just want to come to the civic centre because that's their social interaction for the day, perhaps. And we've got to recognise that and look at different ways that we can work, both as an organisation but also with partners, to address that need and that concern. And, you know, one of the things I hope that we've been really successful at, and that is partnership working with other organisations. And that really does need a consistent effort. You know, it's like any relationship. You have to work at it. And sometimes there are challenges and, you know, other times things go really well. But you've got to work in partnership, because the more that we interface with the public, the community, as individual organisations, we miss opportunities. And I think we've seen some examples of that in other parts of the country where, because they haven't communicated and really focused as a system rather than just organisations, you know, some real difficult situations have arisen. So I think, you know, it's still about relationships. It's about being able to work with the private and voluntary sectors, you know, all groups. It's about community engagement, and it's about recognising that the reason that we're here is to make a difference. It's not just about the organisation.
And you talk about make a difference. Last time we met was on Friday with Jackie Sully's
Yeah.
the time. Have you found in your time here as well that there are these people in Harlow who have great community champions, aren't
Yes.
there? And it all as well. When you sit out in the council meetings, look at those councils. They do care, don't they? A lot of people in Harlow care, don't they?
Yes, I think that's one of the features of Harlow. I think people really do care, and, you know, just going around the office again today, you know, people have a genuine commitment to actually making a difference for the people of Harlow. And, you know, and I've been to many councils, many different organisations, and I never get the sense that I get here about the commitment to Harlow, and also the, you know, the willingness to go the extra mile for Harlow. You know, that is outstanding. You know, for my colleagues here, you know, they have been brilliant, and I know that, you know, when I've gone, that will continue, because that commitment is absolutely part of them.
So finally, your expertise, that 14 years here and expertise in going decades, will that get lost in the ether in the midst of time? Are we able to pass anything on to people, whether it's here or out with?
Yeah, I think that, you know, the organisation will continue. There are some great people in this organisation, and very capable people, and that will continue. And you know, as I've said to colleagues, that, you know, I'm a phone call away if I can help in any informal way, because my passion and commitment to Harlow and the council will be with me for the rest of my life, and I really hope that I can contribute in some way. The Harlow Educational Progression Awards is something that's particularly dear to me, and you know, I really do hope that they continue for many years to come, because I think they make a real difference, recognising progression, not just achievement but progression, because that's what Harlow is all about. It's about moving forwards, progressing, and I think Harlow is a fantastic place with huge potential. We've started to realise some of that potential, but there's so much more that can be done, and, you know, that's what we need to do, working with all political parties and, you know, other stakeholders, the Enterprise Zone Board. You know, the Enterprise Zone, past 1,000 jobs now. Fantastic. You know, data centres are being built. Investment that is going into the town is huge, and all of that will really make a difference to the future. And, you know, working with the schools and the college and the UTC, we've got to make sure that local people are in a position where they have the aspiration and ability to take those opportunities. And that's something that's really driven me, and I hope that whoever comes next will drive them as well.
Malcolm Morley, thank you very much for your service and your time.
Thank you very much.